So let me begin by asking you this question. What is perception? If I asked you what is your perception of me as a person or as a teacher, what would you be your answer? Like, of course, many of you have only watched my videos on YouTube. Some of you have might be Googled me. Some of you might have come to my class, a physical lecture. Do you think that all these three sets of people will have the same perception about me, or will they differ in their perception of me as a person and as a teacher? Now, why do you think you have different perceptions about me? Well, the answer is clearly staring us right in the face, isn't it? It's because your perception about me is going to be based upon how much information you have about me and your interpretation of the information that you have about me as well. So someone who has never watched my video or met me in person has no perceptions about me. Clearly, my wife and my close friends and families will have the best accurate representation of a perception on who I am and what kind of a person I am. So, what is perception? Perception is nothing but a process in which we select, organize, and interpret stimuli to create a meaningful picture of the world around us. So, basically, in the most simplistic term, perception is our interpretation of reality. Your perception about Apple, the company, will depend upon your interest and your ability to find, organize, and analyze information about Apple. Right? Now, if you already have a perception about Apple, then any new information that comes into your view might create a new perception of Apple. That is, if you let it happen. Right? So, when we talk about perceptions in marketing and in real life, perception is very important. In fact, perception is more important than reality. People buy or reject product and companies based upon their perceptions. If I asked you right now to tell me which place would be cheaper, Walmart or Target, what would your response be? I know most or all of you will say Walmart is cheaper. Now, is Walmart happy with this perception or this position that Walmart occupies in the consumer's mind? Well, to learn more about perceptions and positioning, please watch my other video talking about that specific topic as well. But just thinking about perceptions in mind, keeping in mind that Walmart has spent millions of dollars advertising its low prices and the everyday low value that it provides, I would perhaps say that they are happy with this position, right? With this perception that they have created. So they strove for this position, they covet this position, and they spent millions of dollars in advertising to create this perception. But what if you are Target? Target might be missing out on a lot of consumers who are looking for value just because these consumers perceive Target to be more expensive than Walmart. In reality, that might not be the case at all. Let's take a look at this comparison done on Clark.com comparing prices between Walmart and Target. So here we can see that across 30 regular consumer product categories, the price difference between Target and Walmart was just about 1%. So if you bought $500 of goods from Walmart, it would cost you about $505 in Target, which is not a big difference at all. But even then, I find myself going to Walmart and not a lot to Target because my perception is Walmart is cheaper than Target. Conversely, if I asked you who carries higher quality products, Walmart or Target, your answer might be Target. Now, there might be a number of reasons for this. We generally think that higher prices represents higher quality, and since our perception is that Target is higher priced, it will also translate to higher quality. Again, if you have gone to the stores, the store environment, which is another source of information, creates a difference in perception. The Target stores look much cleaner, much shinier, products are generally arranged neatly, there is more space between aisles, the carts are better, customer service is better, excellent, etc. Right? So of course, Target might not be unhappy with the perception of higher quality at the expenses of the perception of being expensive. So in summary, as I said earlier, your perception of a product is your interpretation of the reality. To interpret anything, you need to first be exposed to a stimulus. You need to see it, hear it, touch it, feel it, smell it, etc. Right, so right now you are being exposed to the sights and sound of this video, as well as whatever is going on in the background. So if you're watching this in a phone while your roommate is talking on her phone or his phone, you're also being exposed to that chat. If your AC is running, you are also being exposed to that sound. If your TV is on, you are also being exposed to that TV. So you're being bombarded by stimuli 24/7. So just being exposed to something does not lead to perception. You also have to pay attention. Right? So if you start paying attention to your roommate's conversation instead of paying attention to this video, then you will not be creating a perception about me and the lecture that I'm delivering. Now once you're exposed to the stimuli, in this case me, and you are paying attention, again me, the next thing you do is to organize the information that you have just received. So I'm a male, I'm middle-aged, I look Asian, my voice is soft, I make a lot of hand gestures, the video quality is decent at best, I am wearing formal shirt, I have no hair, and many other things that you are receiving right now, right? So what is happening with you is that you're looking at the patterns and trying to make sense of me. You're looking at all the information and organizing it to make a whole picture of me, to categorize me so that you can interpret me in the next step, right? If you don't organize me, you cannot make sense of me, which is to interpret me. And so let's take a look at these. What are these? You're being exposed to the stimuli, and I'm sure you're paying attention to it as well, as part of the effort to create a perception about these things. Now, if you've never seen this thing or this thing in the past, the brain looks for patterns to see what categories it will match or it doesn't match, right? And based upon that information, the product will get organized into a category. So in case of me and talking about me, every information that you see, hear, or feel about me will help you organize me based upon the stimulus that you have just received, right? So while sensing and organizing are generally spontaneous and happens really without much conscious thought, interpretation will be much more deliberate and will take conscious thought. So coming back to your perception about me, your perception will be based upon your mental model. A better word that we could use is schemata of what a good person looks like and talks like, right? So your interpretation of how you see me, Asian, middle-aged, bald, overweight, dressed formally, or how you hear me with an accent, wrong pronunciation, the warmth in my voice, etc., will be based on your past schemata of a good person. So if you previously had bad experience with a teacher who looked like me or talked like me, your perception about me will be impacted because of your interpretation is based upon the bad teacher schemata. If you look at the ball example, if you are outside of the United States and have never watched American football, you will not see this as a football. This is because your schemata about football are that they are round, they bounce when you kick them to the floor, you generally kick the ball instead of playing with your hand. Since your interpretation is based upon your schemata of football, you might perceive the ball to be not a football. This does not mean that your perception cannot change over time. We can incorporate new information and build new schemata, and our existing schemata may change over time, thereby changing our interpretation and our perception. I'll give you a personal example as well. The first time I met my wife many years ago, which was kind of like on a Nepalese version of a blind date. I wore a polo shirt, had clean jeans, and wore tennis shoes, and my perception was that I was dressed nicely enough, but she later told me that she thought that I was dressed like a slob. So her mental model or her schemata of a well-dressed person was clearly different than mine. Therefore, her perception of me was impacted by what she saw, i.e. the visual stimulus, and what her internal schemata of a well-dressed person is. Luckily, her overall perception of a person is only partly based upon how a person dresses or looks, and we have been together for over a dozen years. So in this video, we learned about perception and the perceptual process. I hope I explained these concepts well. Perception is a very, very important topic in marketing because consumers make purchase decisions based upon perceptions all the time. So if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. If you want me to explain any other concepts, please let me know as well.